I'm in bricks by the crowd is full. Money on my head, cause I'm lawless. Taking on the list, walking down this road. I roll late, get the swing, ain't no debate. Confused, I'm in bricks by the crowd is full. Get it.
MSI means a lot to me because it's an international tournament and I really want to give Europe some trophies. So I really want to put us back on the map. It's a chance for redemption because we had a quite poor finish in the playoffs and we want to prove that that was just a fluke.
G2 一直都是国际赛队伍嘛，所以我们会打得很谨慎，然后来面对他们。
只要不要犯太多失误的话，我觉得我们是一支纪律性很好的队伍。
Yeah, I think Janja is a really good player, maybe one of the hardest Janjas to play against in the play-ins. I'm really excited to play against him.
你们摸不透我的。
Maybe ban Nidalee or Nautilus.
I think our first match just says that we're like a real competitor. We're a real team. We're here. We're playing well. Other teams won't take us as lightly anymore.
其实我对他们上路没什么印象吧，但是我希望他明天可以给我留下一些印象。
I think a lot of people have him as the best top laner in the world right now. So I think it'll be a lot of fun. I have a lot of respect for the people who have managed to stay on top, but I do like coming in as the underdog.
我想对他说，如果你不多招点你的队友来抓我的话，我会把你打爆的。但是希望你能去和你的队友好好沟通一下吧。
Welcome back, everyone, to MSI 2023, live from the Copperbox Arena here in jolly old London. I love the fighting talk from Bin. You better call your team for help, otherwise I am going to crush you. Let's see how he does today as you see both of the respective teams stepping onto stage, getting ready. Well, hello there. Today, we'll determine the first two teams qualifying for the best of 5 bracket stage, kicking it off with Bilibili Gaming, taking on the Golden Guardians. Quickshot, joined by Dagda and Raz. It gets serious now. Dagda, I don't really know what my expectations are, but I know there's a lot on the line.
I am so excited to see what way this one's going to pan out. I am kind of surprised to see Bin still trash talking after yesterday's performance. Could have gone a bit better for him, but glad to see he's still confident.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want Bin to ever lose that. The man is as confident as ever, and the fact that he's able to come in matches and be like, no, I'm still the best. I love it.
I definitely want to hear him do more English interviews on stage. Hopefully we get a chance to see that. Now, before we get into today's matchups, let's take a look at how the meta has been shaping up over the first 2 days of the tournament. I think I'm going to start with this Nautilus in the mid lane, because I think it could be a pick we're going to see a whole bunch today. So if you're looking at your screen right now, here's a summary of the changes that have happened on Nautilus. Base damage increases, mana cost and W reduced. The E is the big one for me. The base damage going up. We're seeing some more AP in the mid lane. I'm seeing it played a lot. Dagda, why are teams picking it now?
Yeah, there's 2 big reasons. It's because you're able to survive heavier in lane because of the extra shield and the mana cost being reduced, plus just having a huge amount of push now with the Emax Nautilus that we're seeing coming through, and then being able to go for the Abyssal Mask nice and early generally gives you a good matchup in the lane, so you just get to push, nobody can really get you out of lane, and then you can start to roam.
Yeah, that Abyssal Mask point's nice. There are small changes that happen coming into the world. One of those changes was Abyssal Masks, and it's just difficult in general for mages to push you out. That's always been an issue with the mid lane, is that you kind of require a lot of time to scale, and so you can see a little bit of scrapping from the Nas. The fact that he was this close to being able to get this kill and it required some help means a lot. And also, I think the big point too is that it's facilitating for carry junglers. Carry junglers have been a big thing coming into this tournament. We've seen Lee Sin coming in from BLG. We've seen Kindred a little bit from some of the teams. And most importantly, we've seen the Nidalee. And so like, for me, it has been more so kind of a scrim pick. We've seen it from G2. We've seen it from BLG. And if you kind of come to the conclusion that they scrimmed against each other, whether it's real or not, I actually love some of the drafts going into it, and it's just, you know, BLG and G2 just being more dominant teams, so it hasn't been working for the opposite team. But like, I have liked the Nidalee pick so far.
Yeah, I think Nidalee's been absolutely fantastic. The fact that you have so much set up for, and the fact we've seen her like play towards top, we've seen her mess up a bunch of bot lanes with this Nautilus pick as well. But there's so much that can enable her. You got the Poppy in this regard that's been able to set up for it. We saw the attempt at a renekton yesterday from BLG. But once you start to get into the enemy jungle, start to get this Nidalee ahead, there's very little you can do. You can see how much burst damage she has in this.
I'm very intrigued to see whether or not this Nautilus, Nidalee, or the Nautilus will continue to have presence throughout the entire tournament. I think in particular the Nautilus is an interesting one for me. The Nidalee is also one of those picks that sometimes gets flirted with on the big stage, but gets dropped because of the high degree of execution required, right? So look, it's day 3. It's way too early to focus on it. You can see some of the clips coming out there now, Riz.
Yeah, and a small thing is the flexing. I actually forgot to mention that the fact that it's not just a great mid laner, that was nice from
Nautilus,
Jun, but also the fact that Mickey's mentioned it on stage. If worst case scenario, he can take it himself. So it's just been such a good pick for the team so they can hide it for bot lane counter picks. So it's been fun because we've seen Xayah and Rakan be picked against the Nautilus, but then teams are like, okay, then we'll just smash you with Lucian and Nami and make it harder for you to get to the mid game late.
Okay, so follow-up question here.
Yes.
Obviously, we've seen the 2 different groups. On day 1 of MSI, we had a very small discussion on the desk around how maybe the 2 groups may have slightly different interpretations of the meta. I think something like a Tristana, we've seen it pop up on one side. We've seen a little bit of the Poppy, the Viego. These are some of the champions that I've seen in addition to like some Nautilus and Nidalee. What do you think the likelihood is that they're going to be the tournament picks, or what other champions do you have your eyes on as we're getting into these BR3s?
I think it very much kind of tells the story of how these teams want to try and play, right? Because we're seeing a lot of the, hey, if you want to try and set up for your jungler to be that carry jungler, cool, let's try and go towards the Nautilus, we'll bring out the Nidalee and play for that. Even the Viego as well, to a certain extent, because he's been picked with LeBlancs and Aries and Lissandras that can set him up really well. Whereas it feels like when you're getting things like the Tristana, it's okay, we can flex it for Golden Guardians, but we're using a Gragas or a Maokai jungle to try and facilitate that.
Yeah, and I do think that draft that we've seen from Nautilus and Nidalee, I actually like Loud's response to it. I think you can outscale it. I think if you hover topside for the usual Nautilus dives or bot lane, if you can track it, then it makes it hard for that pick to actually be worthwhile, and the single target damage gets completely nullified by a Tahm Kench. So generally speaking, I think if you have a higher level of competition against what G2 and BLG has been throwing it, it's going to be difficult to execute.
I will say, though, on one pick I really want to see, it's got to be the Kha'Zix. It's been spammed in solo queue a whole heap, and especially for Yike, right the way back when he was on LDLC, he was almost a Kha'Zix one trick. So I want to see if he actually ends up bringing it about, but I do feel like it's a little bit of solo queue special.
I hope so. I hope so. I mean, it's one of those things, it kind of would fit as well. We like seeing Yike on those carry junglers, so maybe it'll be a possibility later on today. Let's take a look at our play-ins starting in Group A. BLG will be taking on Golden Guardians in our first series. The winner today advances to the MSI bracket stage. And for the lower bracket teams who lost, do win or do not continue in MSI. There is no try. When we look at this bracket, expected results, maybe very dominant wins for BLG and Golden Guardians. Now we get to see them test the metal against one another.
Yeah, and very harsh lessons for the teams of GAM and R7. Even hearing from Hanke, the analyst from GAM Esports, being like, just taking a lot of lessons for it. So I'm expecting a lot going into that matchup, but now I'm ready for a matchup like this Golden Guardians BLG. It's going to be a slobber knocker.
It will be. And just before we get into that pre-match, let's take a look at Group B. Dagda, the results coming in there, I think DFM as well as Loud, not necessarily living up to kind of what we were hoping for, expecting. The Loud G2 series extremely close in game 1, but then collapsed game 2.
I mean, honestly, a similar story for PSG DFM, right? Both G2 and PSG had to have these massive comebacks to get themselves those 2-0 victories. So definitely a little bit shaky coming in the early stages, but I will say it feels like both PSG and G2 kind of found their footing and are looking to play their style. For G2, hey, look, we want to try and facilitate through mid lane for Yike, whereas you look across at PSG, it's, hey, we want to try and be that facilitator.
I definitely feel like the Group B match is a little bit harder to get a beat on in terms of like 1, 2, 3, 4, but stack ranking, right? And I mean, take a look at this. Average game times for the last 2 days. Both days obviously featuring 2 series going 2-0. 33 minutes, 26 minutes. Incredibly dominant, incredibly favored, and that's going to set us up as we head towards our pre-match. Let's take a moment to hone in on our featured matchup of the day presented by Mercedes-Benz. It's going to be G2 Esports versus PSG Talon.
Our Mercedes featured matchup today is PSG versus G2.
Did not seem that convincing. They were close to losing the second game. They're gonna be for sure a hard team. I don't think any team is bad here, but I think we should have the edge over them.
Quieting some of the doubts that plagued the old kings of the LEC, they showed that they are still in international form.
The Handsam are still doing it! Broken blade! They're all bleeding! And G2 find their fight! But it's G2 who finish!
Facing them today is PSG Talon, who similarly started MSI with a bang by dominating DFM on the first day, with Waco's Aphelios carrying this team to their first win at MSI.
Yuma wants to chase them down! The charm is there! A double for Waco!
我们会全力以赴，然后一样会2比0你们。
Now we get to see who drops the first game between these 2 dominant teams with such high expectations on their heads, and who will reign supreme between EMEA and the PCS.
Let's find out how these two teams perform. That'll be later in the day. It's the second series, G2 taking on PSG Talon. Players that I think I'm going to be focusing on is going to be Yike as well as Junja. We heard them in that video just at the top of the show. A lot of pressure on these individual players, but I think for Yike, 2 carry games on those Nidalees, and he did step up, Tekza.
He definitely attempted to step up.
Early game one did not go well.
Some Nidalee Spears went a bit wide, but I definitely think it's just, look, first time on an international stage, get the nerves out of the way, but it is a very different style between these two players. Yike is going to be facilitated by Caps and his picks like the Nautilus, whereas for Junja, it is very much a case of, okay, how can I try and be in a position to facilitate my team and maybe steal away a jungle camp or 2 on the way.
Yeah, I thought G2 did a great job of pooling resources into him, and then later on in the game, Yike really did perform. For Junja, he actually did stumble a bit on his volume performances. I think that he didn't show his best self on that day, and you heard from Broken Blade, a little earlier today actually, that he thinks that Junja is actually the scariest one in the group, at least as a jungler. So for both these junglers, it is going to be a clash, and I expect both teams to put resources into them and see how they play.
And I love my really dumb quick stats. It's the only member of G2 Esports undefeated on the international stages. Yike. Now, let's turn our attention to our first series of the day. It's the LCS taking on the LPL. And of course, everyone's going to remember Team Liquid taking down IG just a couple years ago here at MSI. When we do look at the series scores, LCS and LPL, at least in terms of overall series, relatively close.
Yeah, it's 2-1 when you look at those best of series, 7-5 scoreline. So in the best of 5s, it's actually been relatively close. So I'm excited to see if Golden Guardians can try and cause that upset, because genuinely, when you looked at BLG yesterday, it didn't feel like they were coming out on all cylinders firing, right? And it felt like a huge amount of it was just around that bot lane. Could they get that lead? And Golden Guardians bot lane popped off yesterday as well.
I don't know if Raz was on camera, but he grimaced so hard. Semia.
I like the way you're speaking to me, Doug.
Golden Guardians play style.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. We talked a lot about Huhi yesterday, but let's start with him and then build it out. What do you want to see, and how have Golden Guardians played so far at MSI?
Expectations versus reality for me was big. Coming into the tournament, we spoke about how Golden Guardians would maybe stumble versus Gamma Esports. That didn't happen, and Huhi on his set engages was performing well. There are a lot of times where he was getting stun locked and couldn't get his W off, and that happened, but he was really, it made it so the fights that they were supposed to win, they were set up well to do it, and it felt like the comms between on the team was clear. An engage like this, very easy for them. Even before that engage happened, it was the Licorice Poppy ulti to make it not a 50-50 whatsoever, to take the jungler out of the equation. Just a great idea from the team.
And I think the fact that they're bringing out these unusual picks, like the set, like the Amumu, and still finding this massive success on it, is going to make such a difference here, because now you've got to be aware, okay, well, they can bring out some of these funky picks, and now they're still performing incredibly well on it. Like, a lot of these team fights were won or lost by Huhi.
And that was his 19th unique pick. It maybe have known from him prior, but like he's somebody that's willing to throw something new that a team wouldn't expect.
I mean, that is crazy to see. And of course, because of the fact that Huhi had that impactful performance, one of the beneficiaries was going to be Stixxay. He managed to pick up the Penta. The thing is, I do want to expand this and include BLG's bottom lane. Let's talk about them together, because there was a stolen Penta from Elk. Dagda, we're focusing on the bottom lane. I think it can be a huge determining factor in who's going to win this series. When we look at these hype plays, what does that do for your expectations of how they're going to battle today?
I think a huge amount of this was, laning phase was fine for Stixxay and Huhi, but it was really when we got to those team fights and the skirmishes where they really came alive. And it feels like that's going to be a very similar story here once more, where you're going to try to lean into that as Golden Guardians, because that was what brought you a lot of success in the playoffs in LCS. Whereas when I look across at BLG, it was about that lane dominance that really set them up.
It's like 4,000 gold advantage there from Elk just from the bottom lane alone, right? And it's just the matchup, so that's why I feel like we're going to get a lot of information here today. But Golden Guardian success through Stixxay has just been straight up team fighting. So I wonder how BLG will be able to fight back, because look, you're in the LPL, you're BLG, you're winning through team fights, so it's going to be a tough one for Stixxay to kind of show that level of performance yesterday and today.
And it also kind of showed the playbook that BLG like to go for, which is Yago's going to be on a facilitator, we don't talk about the Jace, and then you look towards things like the Nautilus. He was a big Veigar player, he was the Galio player, he wants to try and take that pressure and lean that into the bot side, and you can see the success that they had there as a result. Massive numbers for Elk when it comes to that damage.
What I love is the first 2 lines like, oh, that looks great. Then you look damage per minute. Then you look damage share. Then you look gold difference.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think it's 100% apples to apples in terms of relative strength of their competition.
Yes.
As well as the fact that Lucian army, basically the entirety of BLG camped in that bottom lane like so much. There were so many roams down. We've had a bit of a focus there. I don't think we've spoken enough about Licorice and Bin. Strong words from Bin coming into the day. Can Licorice step up to the plate and challenge what many believe could be one of the best top laners, if not the best in the tournament.
There's a reason why Ben's that confident. Got them here to this tournament, right? Against really stiff competition. And FLICKR is somebody that's leveled up domestically to get here and perform as well as he is and have resources now, draft resources. I think what's interesting is that the game that we saw him on, he's picking the Poppy. He's absorbing a lot of the, what's it called, the enemy teams.
Pressure,
just in general. So that's nice to see. That's going to be a lot of pressure this time around that I don't think he's going to be able to do well versus.
And Dagda, just to cut you off, we've got a minute and a half. I want to bring these stats up and then come back to you.
Okay.
I just want to highlight some of the numbers that BLG have already put up on day 2.
Nice.
6,000 gold lead at 14, 6.5 kills, as well as 6.5 deaths. Again, it was a bit of a happy game if I were. Again, not indicative, but more crucially, BLG, I think, are the favorites. I think that's fair to say. They're expected to play well today. What do you think about their playstyle?
Yeah, I think, well, when you look at the early game, half of that goal difference of 14 wasn't that bot lane for most of these games, right? We saw the fun game coming through from the Renekton for Bin. We saw Yago not looking so hot in the J, so I think we kind of need to get a correction there for them, but I do agree with Raz. I think when we look towards that top side, you cannot give Bin the Cassante. It's been such a staple pick for him in the LPL.
Yeah.
We got to see it yesterday. He looked absolutely fantastic, getting solo kills on it into a counter matchup. And then you're going to go and if we can just bring Yago back to basics, like play the Vegars, play these facilitators, don't try and put on the carry pants when you don't need to, that can work so much more.
What would be a good second phase ban from BLG is the Poppy. I think Poppies work really well for, yes, Broken Blade, but 100% Lickerish. So you take it out of the equation, so much easier to attack the top side.
Now, we're just moments away from heading to the caster dash. Just a quick update that because BLG won the coin toss, they have elected to play on the blue side. We'll find out what they're going to prioritize and whether or not Golden Guardians will have an answer for them. That does it from here at the LNSS. Head to Vedius and Ashin for BLG versus Golden Guardians.
Thank you so much, Trevor. We got ourselves a Celtic cast coming in here now. Vedius, your first day in. Welcome to the MSI 2023 play-ins. And
thanks so much, my friend.
Yeah, it's going to be good. I got you on for a Chinese game. I'm going to be excited.
It's going to be a banger, right? Our first game is between NA and China, and it's going to be a good one. I hope we finally get to see 3 games. So far, it's just been 2-0 stomps for what feel like a lot of the favorites coming into the play-in stage. But I think that many look at this matchup and say that this could be one of the closest that we have in terms of the best of 3, especially after the performance the Golden Guardians showed us yesterday, but it depends if they can maintain that performance against the powerhouse that is the LPL second seed.
That's the big thing. Like, Golden Guardians impressed me yesterday. It was cool, calm, collected. They knew exactly how to do it. Who he was a monster, as they mentioned on the desk. So BLG, they still looked fantastic, but it was definitely a couple of things we kind of went, what went wrong here? Like, Bin did not look exceptional on the Renekton yesterday, and it does feel like since the LPL finals where he did get kind of stomped by 369, he's yet to find back his mojo, you know, something that can bring him in. But, you know, we're going into picks and bans now. We're going to see what is going to be going on to the Rift here in game number 1. And already we're seeing respect being put onto Lickerish's name.
Wow, the Poppy and the Rumble being taken away, along with the Cannon being taken away from Golden Guardians. This is actually what I was expecting to be banned away from them. Things like the Jax, the Annie, the Kindred, the Nidalee, the Nautilus, all these things are sort of higher priority for me, but it seems that GG have had time to think about how they want to answer that Nautilus if it is still a priority. The struggle is going to be that flexibility. You can put it in mid, you can put it down into the support position as well, so how will they be able to manage that flexibility of the champion?
And that's the big thing as well, is that, like, you know, when the Nautilus mid coming in, it kind of fits Yagao to a T. Hard engage, get to be the front line for your team. You don't necessarily need to be a carry, and just super, super safe. I love the Diego ban coming in here from BLG. They're recognizing that River just kind of had a bit too much control in those jungle skirmishes with that pick yesterday.
That he did. Does mean, though, that Lucian, I was just about to say the Lucian army is up and available.
You did your research.
Golden Guardian's going to look to remove that one. So the question is, what will the priority be for BLG? Yesterday we saw them first pick Nautilus, and then the game after they first picked the Nidalee, right? A very confident game plan, especially after Shun. We know how confident he is on things like the Kindred and the Nidalee, with which both are up, but instead he will be going for the Vi. Nothing that he hasn't played before, but when it's come for picks up, it seems that they want to have that strong mid-jungle in terms of their ability to set up.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, yes, Shun is no stranger to Nidalee, did very well, but there were definitely times during yesterday's series where BLG Shun found himself just kind of in no man's land, really looking at himself going, wait, I have no priority in these lanes and I get killed? How does that happen? But goes with the Vi, very easy point and click CC with that ultimate. And now the Jinx coming in here for Stixxay, so we're starting to kind of go back to what we, you know, the desk we're talking about, that it is all about those kind of big hyper carries in the bot lane. It's just where the meta is right now. And Stixxay, he showed up yesterday.
He certainly did. Elk yesterday had an incredible performance.
Do it, River. Do it.
Out from River.
Yes! Do it, River. Call him out.
Wow.
That's
we
a
actually got the Kindred coming out from River. Definitely not what I was expecting. I thought we'd see something like the Wukong as an answer, something that we've been seeing a lot of in the current meta. But the Ahri lock-in for BLG, no surprise. Vi Ahri is an incredibly potent mid-jungle duo. And the Aphelios for Elk. This is something I've been very excited to see throughout playoffs. This was something that Elk often deferred to, and he is a monster on this champion.
I mean, Elk yesterday came in with a plan, because even when Yagao and Bin were not looking their greatest, Elk was still stepping up. Elk was really putting in the time and pressure to kind of make sure BLG didn't get away. You saw the stats there that Des brought up as well. Huge, massive gold difference, CS difference, even just damage per minute difference. The guy was just everywhere he needed to be and getting all of the advantages. But now with Golden Guardians, looking towards getting their mid lane locked in, they will go to the Lissandra, so good little point-and-click CC for themselves, and also just safety between that, Vi Ahri mid lane combination.
So a little bit more utility offered. I think that makes a lot of sense. Gives you a little bit more dive threat onto the Aphelios, depending on how GG choose to round out their draft. We're looking for a little bit more frontline from Golden Guardians now. Something like Sion, maybe even an Ornn. Anything that can Malphite is another big pick. Wouldn't surprise me to see BLG look to remove some of those options. But I do think this could also be a great opportunity for BLG to go for more of a carry top. When you have Vi Ahri, great ability to play through that top side of the map, and if your expectation is the Golden Guardians will look to lock in more of a tank side top, then you could look to try and punish it. So see what BLG look to limit. The Blitzcrank being removed heavily suggests that both teams are thinking about that Thresh. And of course, GG with that first pick can look to lock it in. So maybe BLG will look to ban it away. But right now, their eyes on that top lane.
And something that's kind of slipped through as well is that we saw kind of very heavy presence yesterday was the Xayah Rakan. We're not going to see the Xayah being picked up in this particular matchup as both AD carries are locked in, but the Rakan has made his way all the way through the band so far. And this is something that On is very, very comfortable on. It was something he kind of almost defaulted to a lot in the LPL regular season, and it's kind of what has to be feared, getting that extra little bit of engage. But we'll have to wait and see. The Nautilus does get banned away, so we will not be seeing that in the bot lane or the mid lane in this matchup.
I think that Thresh pick is looking juicy right now for Golden Guardians, but I think you're right. The Rakan immediate answer seems to be what BLG will be looking for. The question is, what will that final... Oh, they're actually going to look to remove the Thresh themselves. So the Thresh pick seemed fairly obvious for Golden Guardians, given their bans. So what direction will they go? Will they look to lock in the Rakan themselves? Do they want something like the Lulu to offer a little bit more support for that Jinx instead?
See what they want to go for. They're taking their time with this one here. They will get countered into top if they so choose. There's only a couple of top lane bans really, so you don't want to be picking up too early. The Renata looks like it's going to be the lock-in here, so good engagement. It's kind of a secondary. You don't really want to be starting off with a hostile takeover. Can do a lot for the Jinx, but again, it's kind of very situational when you're kind of setting those whole big team fights up.
Well, I think the idea is to provide a little bit more peel, a little bit more follow-up engage if the Lissandra decides to go in, but now I think the GG really need that frontline engage, something like an Ornn, a Malphite, a Sion, just something that can really start these fights off. But there's no reason not to lock in that Rakan for BLG. You talked about it, you talked about how for On this is one of his go-to comfortable champions, and it's just such a great follow-up engage when paired up with divers like the Ahri and the Vi.
Let's see how BLG want to try and bring this comp together. Like you mentioned, they could go with a carry top, and they are thinking about it. Bin didn't look exceptional, if I'm being totally honest, on the Renekton yesterday. Did look fantastic on the Cassante. But we'll see which way they want to go for at the end of their kind of thing. They will be picking this blind, and the Gnar is always just a very, very kind of safe pick in a lot of different circumstances, especially when you know, as you mentioned, Golden Guardians are going to probably be going for a tank. They need some kind of front line.
Certainly do. The Gnar does make a lot of sense. I think that it just kind of fits the comp very comfortably. Does give you some potential dive threat on the top side of the map. Some cheeky hovers coming out from Huhi.
It's been a while since I've seen a team over and an actual crowd reaction to it.
What will that final lock-in be for Golden Guardians? Hey, don't hate on the rock, man. Malphite makes a lot of sense here. I think it's a very solid front line, and I think that it is great threat onto the Aphelios. I remember back in Europe, it was Bwipo that brought this out as a very potent answer into the Aphelios when Jinx Aphelios was so prevalent in the meta. You have so much threat. It's a relatively safe laner. Early game, though, can heavily be bullied. I'm very interested to see if BLG go back to their old ways of just looking to attack that top lane. Yesterday, we saw them attacking bot lane a lot, but I think this could be a great opportunity for them to really shut that top side down in their favor.
Absolutely agree. And I think with the Gnar as well, you have so many kind of options there. The engage is there, the bullying, as you mentioned as well, but also, you know, the Vi and Ahri, even in the mid lane on its own, is so potent at just setting up that single target CC. You get a flash charm in, you hit that into a Vi Q, you can just burst somebody down. So it's going to be very interesting to see how Golden Guardians kind of survive and where BLG kind of want to throw their resources. But the teams are locked The coaches have said themselves a GG to each other, and we're going to be jumping into this first game. And again, I think a lot of people, I know from my side of things in the LPL, we're a little bit worried about this one here. Golden Guardians is not looking as easy maybe as a couple of LPL fans were hoping.
Yeah, I think that given that we've had such dominant 2-0 performances from everyone, apart from you two, I think
got it in game 2.
Expectations are high for both these teams, and a lot of people are excited to see what they can bring to the table. Best of 3 between BLG and Golden Guardians. It's going to be a good one. Let's go into the Rift.
Here we are. It is only game 1. New format, of course. This is the winner's bracket. Win this best of 3 and you qualify to get the Gios.
30 seconds until minions
It's
spawn.
good for my soul. I only get those over like a Zoom call as we do it from our houses, but it feels good.
The first thing I'll note is Licorice is being collapsed on right now, and he does not have information. You can see Rakan. I believe it was the Rakan, yeah. Rakan dropped that ward in the top bush and is now going to look to recall, so nothing too dangerous. GG could consider a delayed invade to the bot side of the map, but for now I think that they're just setting up that line of scrimmage. You can see runes across the board.
Minions have spawned.
Nothing too crazy coming out from either side. The comment on the Malphite does make a lot of sense when you are going into that range matchup. Usually you take a couple more points in your queue to be able to trade. But the first thing I want to know is the moment we got into game, Elk pinged the summoner spells. He was like, hey, Stixxay is running Ghost, right? Like, you can already see that coming into this game, the first thing that BLG is thinking of is what can we do in the bot side of the map. Yesterday, we saw Jun invest a lot of time working with Yagao, getting that mid-fire looking for the roam. The delayed invade here from River.
I mean, it's just River, but I don't think BLG know that just yet. They should be well aware of it for the moment, but that's ballsy from River, to say the least, to going in with very little support if anyone was to collapse on him.
Uhi now has strong position in the lane at the very least. Will be able to get a decent trade, and this will guarantee priority in the bot side of the map. And this is something that's really important when playing with a Kindred, priority. Obviously what you want to be able to do is move into the enemy jungle, be able to threaten those steals, try and mitigate and trade against the Vi as much as you can in the early game to just make her life as difficult as possible. Which means that you need that push. They have push in the bot lane for the time being. They have push in the mid lane for the time being. The double range matchup, along with the fact that Ahri doesn't have the strongest wave clear at level 1, means that there are some options, but for now, River will path up towards the top side of the map. Vi is looking to match in the same vein, and it's scary for a Vi. One of the struggles in this matchup is if you miss your Q,
yeah, you're up a creek without a paddle.
Yeah, it's not good. Of course, the immediate burst, the immediate single target lockdown, very powerful for a Vi, but Kindred can do so much in these later fights thanks to her ultimate to mitigate some of that threat. Now they're looking for a gank mid.
They are looking for a gank mid. The charm is good into the queue, but a good Ring of Frost from Gory means that he only loses his flash, and Yagao used his as well.
Early investment of the flash from Yagao to guarantee that charm landing. Unfortunately for BLG, they didn't quite have the damage to secure that kill. Good route from the W from Gory to then create a bit of space. He does, of course, have the TP, which he will utilize very early on to get back into the laning phase, but already a bit of presence being shown from Jun in the early game. And again, this is very reminiscent of what we saw from them yesterday. Help that mid, try and secure a little bit of pressure, take that flash away from the Lissandra, which then makes it easier and safer for Yagao to then start threatening a roam and looking for options on the map.
Rivers found himself at this top side and maybe trying to burn down Bin, who knows he's in no man's land. He does get a good hop, though, right onto Licorice's head. And now he's kind of just saying, which way am I going to go? He's kind of hoping that the Vi will come up, and they are coming in. But now it's a little bit of a turnaround. The River doesn't know that he's there, and now he realizes he's in a little bit of trouble now. They waited a couple of seconds. Can he get himself over the wall? That is the question. River trying to make sure he doesn't lose his flash. Gets himself over the wall. They cannot get the clap back. But Bin gets first blood, and now you can see with a little bit of damage, can Licorice finish off this kill? He cannot. And there's a big old Mega Gnar jumping in his face. He's got nowhere to be, nowhere to go. Double buffs on the Gnar, and there's a little emote as well. That's for IG. BLG trying to see if they can secure this. They haven't gotten it just yet, but a house to the back of the head means Bin gets 2 kills.
Oh, what a fantastic start for BLG. Bin did the ultimate play that all top laners can do, stand still and wait for your jungler to show up. He was just buying time. He could see the threat, the pincer that was coming down, and he just didn't get involved in the fight. Beautiful play from BLG. Great early advantage. Now look at this River being denied this early Scuttle Crab.
Or is he? would be hard to deny the smite, 600 damage, and that was Huhi kind of saying, look, River, we need to get you rolling, we need to get your stacks going, so I'm going to roll up and I'm going to take a hit for the bot lane.
Yeah, it's not looking great for Golden Guardians this early on. Pretty good trade for Gory in the mid lane. You can see him starting to build a bit of a CS advantage, but the problem you now have is Bin couldn't run away with this matchup, right?
Yep.
You don't need to invest any more resources into Bin. You've got a flashless Malphite, you've got a full level over your top lane counterpart, and it's in the hands of Bin, right? Bin is regarded as one of the best top laners, if not the best top laner at this competition. Of course, 369 may have something to say about that later on down the line, but what a fantastic start for him, and he really has been set up for success. So we'll see what he can do with that lead now. Already has a 150 gold bounty sitting under his belt, going for the early Merc Treads to mitigate that slow that can come out from Licorice's Q. We're getting a look back at this, and you'll notice here, the awkward position, never mind, we're going to go back to live, but the awkward situation there for River was that there was no real way for them to initiate that fight. River is now looking for a play bot. I don't think he's really going to be able to find anything.
It's hard. It's so hard. You don't really, apart from a really good handshake from Huhi, you don't really have that kind of same engage that we saw for him yesterday. They will spot him out now with that the Squire's Bloom, but yesterday what made Golden Guardians so formidable, what it was Huhi coming in with the flash, you know, ultimates from the set. It was him on the Amumu hitting the bandage tosses. You don't really get that as the Renata. Yes, the Renata has her own set of, you know, kind of pros on her, but not that kind of same setup, and it really does feel like outside of the Malphite and the Lissandra kind of coming into that, if you're looking for something bot lane, you're just not going to find it.
Well, BLG, though, they have set up a really nice ward here. With the push that Yagao has just gotten and the control that they have on the bot side of the map, BLG can start to threaten a dive. Bot lane is beginning to stack up a wave. Gory needs to be careful as he walks into Fog of War. Charm.
Charmed, but they're going to go for it. Maybe they're going to go in himself. The Glacial Path shall not be taken, and they want to continue going for this one. We are going to see a Spirit Rush used here, and that's a lot of damage on the Gory, who immediately has to go into his ultimate. Does have a good Ring of Frost, but he's got nowhere to go, and that's Yagao, just a very easy kill, picking up in the mid lane.
Just great awareness from Yagao, using the Unsealed Spellbook. He has the Ignite available to him. Lissandra, still no flash available, at least from what I can tell, and it means that with the Charm being able to connect and good damage down, Yagao, a bit of an assistance from Jun. Well, not even actually, it's just a straight up solo kill from Yagao. And they're able to secure another kill. So BLG really dominating the early game. This will convert into a dragon in their favor. And Yagao can now look to get a very nice pace off and likely pick up that lost chapter.
Again, this is just kind of so much cleaner coming in from BLG. They're not panicking. They're not really kind of giving their, you know, any kind of crazy mistakes over like we did see. And you could pass it off as, you know, first game jitters. There's a lot of, you know, kind of pressure coming in. You're traveling all the way. There's a load of different kind of things you need to kind of take into consideration. But for Golden Guardians, I want to see how they're kind of be able to kind of, you know, draw this one back. You're 2,000 gold down at 7.5 minutes. It's not exactly ideal. And you need stacks on those Kindred. You need that Jinx to get gold and get items before she becomes that monster in those mid to late game team fights. And I want to see what way they're able to do it. As you can see, ooh, almost getting the stop on the recall, but not able to do it. But again, Golden Guardians, they've got to find some kind of proactivity before, otherwise I feel like this game's going to run away from them.
Of course, Golden Guardians do have some, well, they have a decent amount of late game scaling options. In the early game, our expectations were that when you have this Ahri Vi mid-jungle duo, you're going to have a lot of presence on the map. The unfortunate situation for Golden Guardians is how much they actually ended up falling behind. The fact that they've lost kills now, top, jungle, and mid, has only just further made their early game that much harder. And so right now it's about weathering the storm as much as you can, hoping to set up for these neutral fights. But as you rightly said, BLG just have so much control now over all these neutrals.
So much control, and we can see there on just kind of hovering in that mid lane while the Rift Herald is being started. Gory has got the push for the moment, so first move from mid lane is going to be Golden Guardians, but can they make it work? That's the question. The Jinx Rocket shall be blocked, so it's not even going to be able to steal it with that. So now we're looking at a kind of a straight up fight, but it looks like Golden Guardians really want to go for this. They have got the Malphite ultimate and they've lost Mega on BLG. They go in, they get the Grand Entrance, there's going to be a steal away, so Golden Guardians get themselves the Rift Herald, and I don't think BLG can take this fight. They just can't get the damage down, it's just too early.
River was able to get the steal away. We'll be able to pick up that objective. Yagao looking for a bit more poke damage. Licorice still holds on to the ultimate. The Jinx has now made her way up from the bot lane. But Golden Guardians, they're going to walk away with the Herald, and they'll take that.
Absolutely.
That's really going to slow down BLG a lot. When you have such great early game control, unlocking the Herald means that you can unlock top, unlock bot, basically play through where you already have an advantage and really start to snowball this game. But now, Golden Guardians have an opportunity to get a little bit of gold back for themselves, maybe funnel some more gold into the Jinx, set up Stickstage to be this late game carry. And also just ultimately prevent BLG from having another 15-play game, which, you know, is generally a preferred approach for the Golden Guardians.
See, Elk didn't have to roam up, so Elk kind of already finished his call. He's 20 or so CS ahead and having a fairly decent time of it on his own, even 1v2. And again, that's the thing with the Renata. Renata's great in a team fight. In a 2v1, unless she goes for a flash handshake, not really in a position to kind of get any kind of crazy play going for him. But for now, it is just kind of a small little respite for Golden Guardians. Good steal on the Rift Herald means they're going to be able to, as you mentioned, kind of slow this game down, give resources to everyone they feel like is needed the most. Now BLG, they kind of need to make sure that the next time they go for an objective like that, they got to dot your I's and cross your T's. You can't just let Golden Guardians just walk in like that again.
Yeah, they were really concerned about like the single target burst with the Malphite, Lissandra, the Kindred. The fact that Renata had made the way down as well. The props to Elk. He's just playing with so much confidence right now. He knows that his jungle is in the river. Speaking of river, we'll go for a bit of a trade, but I don't know if you walk away the victor in it. Oh, they're actually running away.
Yeah, they don't want this. They do not want this at all. There's a hostile takeover. It will actually help Shun run away a little bit, but I mean, that's the thing. That's why they kind of started running away, because they recognize that we probably can't take this fight. They immediately have to flash away because there was a Gravitum proc there onto Huhi. If he gets caught there, he's probably dead.
Yeah, very likely. Very squishy Renata this early in the game, really throughout the rest of the game. Renata's not the tanking champion. Malphite has made his way down. FLICKR looking to try and get involved in some of the skirmishes. Dragon in about a minute's time. Gory needs to be careful face checking this river. He should have information roughly as to where both Shun and On are. Yagao though, gonna face
River
check.
didn't see him just right to the last second. Yagao did get a very quick spellbook cleanse out of there. And Gory shall take the glacial path down. So very, very tentative right now. Both teams looking a bit jittery at the moment as they look for this dragon.
Second flash just kind of wasted, I feel, from Golden Guardians, walking into a space that just doesn't belong to them. BLG are playing around their control well. They constantly have a pushing bot. They have the pushing mid. GG keep trying to access this river and go for these trades. It's so dangerous.
They're looking for a fight, though. They're going to be able to jump in. There's going to be the Lamb's Respite as you get the ultimate out from the Vi as well. Nobody's gone down just yet as they're all getting a little bit of extra healing. There's the bailout. And finally, River goes down. They're looking to try and see if they can catch out Gory as well, who did have to flash over the wall, but he's got nowhere to go as he's rooted down by Elk's Gravitum. 2 more kills over to BLG. And Golden Guardians, I mean, they tried, but like you said, they just had no right trying to defend that.
I feel like that Lissandra Kindred just doesn't quite match the damage of an Ahri Vi does this early into the game. Trying to force that contest to try and gain space into the river so that you can contest the Drake, I feel like isn't the best way to do it. You need to leverage the fact that your Malphite is a really powerful engage tool, does have the teleport available, maybe you could use that to the bot TP, but also it was so much easier for Elk to join the fight because he's just maintained push in this bot lane 1v1. And we're going to see it here. You can see like the target that they initially tried to focus down is Gory. He gets chain CC'd, knocked up initially, and then River at the back. Look at how low he is already. The ultimate comes down. That gets mitigated by the shield of Vi. Then the heal comes through from the Lamb's Respite. Like, River is the one getting completely bullied in this exchange. And the fact that Elk is then able to rotate, come into the flash to secure that kill as well. Golden Guardians just, they didn't need to force that fight. They didn't need to contest that Drake, and they ended up getting punished for it.
Forcing another fight. They've dropped down Shelly into that mid lane, but we talked about how this is great to kind of funnel resources into someone. They haven't been able to funnel resources into anybody. It will get its charge off. That's going straight over the river. Not the worst person in the world. The hostile taker as decent as been flashed over, and he really wants to take this kill, but the bailout is there, so it's giving an extra couple of seconds. Shut down going over the river, and now the Golden Guardians have sparked into life. Get themselves 2 kills, and that was just BLG just not expecting so much stall out from the bailout.
That is a bit of a big classic, right? a little bit, you know, he's feeling himself, he sees the play, he sees the window, he sees an opportunity to go for a great kill, and as you rightly said, the bailout punishing him massively there. This actually gives Golden Guardians a window to contest the Drake. BLG weren't able to pick it up earlier, but Elk, level 10, very strong Gory.
They're looking onto On, they'll get him out there with the Glacial Prison as well, and Stixay picks up a kill. He's looking to try and maybe get onto Yagao as he gets excited. Elk is still very healthy, but I don't think Elk can go for this. He's going to have to give up that dragon, and it's Golden Guardians who get themselves finally on the board. They're still behind on gold, but they're definitely not giving up this game.
Wow. So that's 3 kills and a dragon, back-to-back, that GG have just secured for themselves, 2 of which all went onto River on this Kindred. And the Herald being dropped in mid is just Golden Guardians. They need to get something back on the map. This Herald's about to expire. Let's just throw it out. And then Bin just gets over-aggressive. He sees an opportunity to chase onto River. He flashes in to the face of Stixxay and says, look, this is an easy kill. I can run out off the back of this. But then the bailout comes out, keeps Riv alive long enough. He's able to get the kill, get the reset, get the shutdown. Then Shun, trying to help his top laner, ends up getting caught in the crossfire. The good news for BLG, though, is because of how well top lane and bot lane has been going, they secured the bot tower, they secured the top tower. All 5 plates went into the back pocket of L. He is so far ahead in gold, largely off the back of just securing all of those plates himself.
Well, we'll see the next Rift Tower being set up here now as BLG look to try and make do with the fact that they have got the mid and top priority, but Golden Guardians are kind of feeling a bit of momentum behind them right now. They're saying, look, we don't believe you could just go for this right here, and that's exactly why, because you don't have Mega. You're waiting on this Gnar to get up to his most powerful engaged tool, and with the Rift Tower going down, it is stolen again, and they're going to go straight away. The hostile takeover is decent. Shun has taken away the Eclipse onto Bin. They're looking for an engage. Bin with the ultimate of the Aphelios means everybody is turned to dust. Gory will just about get himself to safety. Never mind, Yagao's got your number. And what looks so good for Golden Guardians is disaster for them in the end.
It's a clean ace for BLG as Golden Guardians get baited into that choke point for the re-engage to be absolutely spectacular from BLG. What a wombo combo. You can see River is able to get this steal away, but the priority for Golden Guardians is getting this fight. They commit so much onto getting this initial kill onto Jun. Many ultimates committed, the Malphite ultimate, the Jinx ultimate, but this re-engage here, the three-man taunt into knockup, the Gnar connects onto all 5 people if it weren't for the fact that Elk had already killed 2 thanks to the Infernum ultimate at the start, and then Yagao comes in for the cleanup. Fantastic engage from Bin and On.
Fans aren't happy. Fans aren't happy. They saw a bit too much there. And yeah, I mean, like, BLG just recognized how well they could set this one up. They didn't have the Mega yet, and the yet is the big thing there is On. Now he's kind of caught in no man's land. The Everfrost is good, and he's dead. So BLG, yes, they're still ahead, and yes, they're doing well, but if they keep giving those little kills over, Golden Guardians will get this scaling going, like you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, I mean, it's all in the Stixxay basket right now. A lot of responsibilities falling on his shoulders, but you look across the 280 carries, Infinity Edge now finished as well for Elk. He was strong before, he's even stronger now. Bin is in a prime position to carry as well, and just all across the board, BLG looking good. And I think that, like, around these neutral objectives, around the Herald specifically, BLG, they were a little bit flustered, but when it comes to team fights, I mean, this is true for many LPL teams, but like they thrive in the chaos, right?
Hands stiff, man. That's just what it is. It's just hands stiff.
You make that overstep, and I think ultimately that's what it was for Golden Guardians. They should have just taken the Herald and tried to walk away, but they committed to try and get more kills. They saw an opportunity to really snowball the game into their favor, and they end up getting punished for it. They weren't even able to get the Herald, which is the most frustrating thing for the Golden Guardians. They haven't been able to secure a tower yet. They find themselves in a 5.5k gold deficit. Now BLG will start to move their vision into the enemy side of the map, and they'll start setting up for this dragon that's about in a minute's time. Right now they're getting some vision control around the top side, but I imagine they'll translate this vision towards the bot, largely just so that Bin can push through the top wave. You can see Stixxay and Huhi trying to find a pick. Bin did not spot them.
No, they are not aware on the side of BLG.
Everyone is top.
Yeah, I was going to say, everyone's coming, but BLG think they're going for a fight here. They know that there's more people here. Now they show themselves and they say, okay, everyone calm down. We're not going to take a fight here. It's going to be a 4v3 or 4v4 as Lissandra was in the mid lane. But Golden Guardians not willing to kind of just let this one die for themselves. They're kind of seeing if they can catch somebody out. Because again, we've seen it on multiple occasions, even in this game. BLG will just kind of be a bit disrespectful. They'll walk into areas they're not supposed to be in. And you've got plenty of single target CC available to you on the Golden Guardians. So it's all about being opportunistic here for Golden Guardians. They look to try and trade this one back, but you're losing the mid lane tier 2, and this is just not a great trade. Yes, you'll gain a tier 1, but you're opening up the map so much more. They might even get an inhibitor turret.
They will. I think the BLG just read the map really well. They knew that GG had overcommitted too many members onto the top side of the map. I think they won't bother trying to secure the Herald. The heal will be popped from Yagao, but that's not a big deal. That's just come through from the spellbook, and now they have a clear path towards the dragon as well. BLG getting so much more on the map after, again, GG just missed position on the map.
The rapid fire cannon now for Stixay, and he's not been doing badly whatsoever, but I don't really know if you can just walk into this one here. Gory kind of leading the charge, the vanguard here for Golden Guardians as they look to try and contest this one here. Jinxult's not going to be anywhere close to it, and they know that that one's down, but do you look for the fight? TP going to be coming in, that's Bin off of a reset. They jump straight in on top of On and try and burst him down. He's not going to go down just yet, but they have the hostile takeover. Elk going back in to take down the Lysandra. The Dragon is still good to go, and they're trying to see if they can burst this one down. Stolen! Golden Guardians get themselves a Dragon, but will they get themselves a fight? Bing jumps in, trying to see if he can do anything there for the Lamb's Respite, doing so much to just delay everything here from the side of BLG. Stixay still very healthy, and a good handshake keeps them alive, but Golden Guardians lose 2, they gain the Dragon.
BLG walk away the victors of the fight once more, and you can see how difficult it is for Golden Guardians to actually execute on these fights. They commit so money onto Elk, but there's so much peel that they really don't have enough threat to really put Elk in any real danger. As you rightly said, the Baron is up and available. They have all 5 members alive, and BLG are going to commit to it. No jungler available for Golden Guardians.
No jungler, and they have no vision either, so they don't know that this is going down. They haven't even pinged it yet. 686 away the red buff, but this is just going to be a straight off spawn. Baron and BLG punishing Golden Guardians, saying you were not prepared. They're throwing out the ultimate, but it's just too little too late. I will say the smite was a bit off, but BLG get themselves the big purple warren, and that is right at 20 minutes.
Great stuff from BLG, and once again, just another great punish. When you look back at this fight, you can see Gory really commits onto the backline here. The Malphite ultimate only connects onto the Rakan. Beautiful sidestep from Elk, and then immediately the Vi ultimate committed onto Gory. Everything invested from BLG to make sure that their AD carry stays alive. The moment that he's left alive, that is when Elk starts to take over. They get that initial kill onto Gory. The objective is stolen away because the smite isn't anywhere near the Dragon, but then Bin sees his opportunity. River doesn't really see a clear way of escaping, so he ends up losing his life. And BLG walk away with the kills, and they walk away with the Baron as well. And I think a lot of this is just Golden Guardians really overcommitting to these objectives. I think that you can debate, do they need to contest that second Dragon of the game? Do they really need to contest the... I think that there was room for them to provide a little bit more space because multiple fights they've now forced themselves into, and BLG have been very quick to punish. So huge props to BLG, looking strong in game 1 of this series. 7k gold lead, and they're looking like a shoe-in to walk away the victors.
Yeah, and it did feel like, it kind of felt like Golden Guardians got that one good Rift Herald fight where the first Rift Herald where they contested and they kind of went, oh wait, we can maybe do this, like all this, and then it just kind of feels like they're chasing that high, they're chasing that win that they saw from so long ago, but it's not been happening for them so far. It's a 7,000 gold lead. Your mid lane inhibitor is exposed as well. You've got Stixay kind of putting in the work to try and get rid of some of these minions, but he's nowhere near a third item, whereas I believe we're going to be seeing a reset coming in now for the Aphelios, who should be able to pick up that LDR and get himself to 3 items. That's an Aphelios that's going to hurt.
Yes, Oshin.
Thank you.
That is a
Thank you
correct
for
statement.
affirming that.
Yeah, I think that the real problem is that they don't have any, like... In an ideal world with this comp, especially when you effectively have double AD carries, you want to try and play front to back. And I feel like the Golden Guardians have never really found a way to do that, especially when BLG have so much disruption in the fights too, so much mobility, so much chaos. There are so many ways for them to access the backline. The Golden Guardians ideally want BLG to come into them, and they want to be on the objective first, but this whole game, BLG have been the ones in control of the river because of how well they've used it early prior. The way in which Jun has played through Yagao, the fact that Elk has just consistently in a 1v1 maintained that push in the bot lane. BLG have controlled the river in more ways than one. And,
very clever. Been doing this for a while?
Yeah. Now they're threatening that top tier 2. They've still got 20 seconds left on the Baron. Not sure if they'll be able to secure this objective, but if nothing else, they can keep the pressure pushed in mid as well. Remember, they did take that tier 3 earlier in the game. On, you think he's in danger, but he's not. He's fine. Just being a nuisance, clearing out what vision he can, and there's that top tier 2 going down. BLG getting a lot of value out of this Baron. I wouldn't be surprised to see them push this one in, look to reset, and then actually set up for the Dragon spawning in about a minute's time.
And Bin will lose Mega. For the moment, at least, should be able to kind of build it back up before this Dragon spawns and have himself in the perfect position. BLG trying to set up a bit of a trap for anybody who walks forward. They're sitting in this brush, knowing there's no vision and knowing that they can kind of control this area. You're trying to see if Stixay, with his rockets, doing very well to control the waves around this middle inhibitor, but bot lane's kind of pushing in as well. You're seeing BLG just suffocating Golden Guardians out. There's just no real vision whatsoever available for the side of Golden Guardians to really kind of get anything going for them.
I think Golden Guardians are just praying for a mistake now from BLG. While it's all well and good to use the whole scaling argument, your Kindred is very far behind. Your Jinx doesn't quite have the Infinity Edge completed. And even if that is the case, how do you deal with the fact that Yagao, 3 items himself, decided to pick up the Mejai's, has 10 stacks on it. Like, your mid lane just doesn't do anything. Gory doesn't do any damage. He's a utility bot, right? All of your damage is going to be coming out from the Kindred and from the Jinx, and the question is, do you really believe that they have the damage to melt through this BLG lineup right now? And the short answer is no. So you're really praying for BLG to mess up, BLG to not be able to close the game out quickly, but I think BLG are not going to have any problems with that. They've picked up the Dragon. River with a small win on, looking for a pick.
Yeah, gonna have to see a flash away there. And again, it's these little small mistakes that River just give up the Raptors. You don't need to contest that, and now he doesn't have a flash. It just feels very unnecessary.
Look, clear window here for BLG to just walk up, take that mid inhibitor. They forced River into the top side. They knew they had the numbers advantage with the range that Elk had as well with the green gun. I thought that they would wait and play for the Baron, but BLG, they're not wasting any time here. And I think that it's really great that they're trying to keep GG as split up as possible. You don't want a full-on 5v5. Why give it to them? Why even give them the risk? Instead, leverage the fact that you have stronger skirmishes, 2v2s, 3v3s. You have a much greater advantage in those situations. And here we are. So they get the mid inhibitor. They look to reset. 45 seconds on the Baron. I'll go back, pick up a few more control wards, and look to secure this final objective, which should very much lead to the end of the game. So overall, BLG are looking good. It feels like that coming into today's series, I almost feel like that they have a much more serious approach. You know, they're showing Golden Guardians a lot of respect. And I think that ultimately, this game was just BLG punishing a lot of the mistakes that we saw from Golden Guardians. And I think that if Golden Guardians can calm down a little bit, you know, not try and overforce, or if they do want to force draft in a way that gives you the tools to be able to force in the early game.
Oh, that was a lot of damage. That was a Q.
Yeah, it was a lot of damage. Yeah.
That's what it is.
That's what that is, yeah.
Glad we made reference to that. But I mean, like you're looking at Golden Guardians comp, you're looking at ways to come back. It's got to be Stixxay. You only have 3 stacks on River's marks. Like, he's not really gotten to a point where he can actually kind of have that extra damage, have that extra range to be a relevant kind of carry. So it's all on Stixxay, who does have the Infinity Edge right now, but BLG are already on the Baron. You're nowhere near this, Golden Guardians.
Edge check coming in from FLICKR, doing what he has to do here to give them some space, give them access.
They're giving it up?
Yeah, they have to. Very well played from BLG.
Close, but no cigar, much like Graves.
Very much so. BLG very cleanly, with great patience, secure the objective. Don't even risk it having... Yesterday they gave away, well, a bit of a steal. They did allow the elites to walk in, steal that one away, and they didn't want to let that one happen again. So now with the Baron, they're going to look to end the game, and Golden Guardians have to be thinking about what they can do in game 2. Unless they can find some sort of miracle here.
Oh, we'll see. Already getting super minions in that mid lane. They're going to start knocking on the Nexus doors. Kind of burning them down as well. Yagao just kind of keeping them going. And there's not really many places to go. You got to pick a poison right now, Golden Guardians. You got to figure out what you want to do here, where you want to try and put your last stand, because otherwise you're going to die a death of 1,000 cuts.
Chip damage continues from Elk. Look, Elk is level 16, so Licorice is level 40.
Yeah.
There is no one that can kill him.
No one who can stand up to him, at least.
Yeah.
You need to be killing him. You need to be killing him very, very quickly. The Shirley's Revelry will get popped. The TP going to be coming in from the base. That's going to be the Ari joining back in as the top lane inhibitor is exposed. They will get a good charm off, and that Orb of Deception hits onto so many people. 3-man knockup, but who's going to be able to follow up? They get everything down onto Shun. They will see if Elk can just kind of survive, but Elk's just not in any threat. He's just going to be able to free fire. He flashes in because he knows no one's going to be able to take him down. I deny that, though. Bin jumps into the backside, gets himself an ultimate. Can Stixxay stay alive? Or excuse me, Stixxay's already dead. Licorice is the last one back, and Bin picks up a triple kill. Licorice, the last one left standing. Baron still good for BLG, and there's going to be able to clean up the rest of this base.
A clean fight once more for BLG, even though Golden Guardians found the kill onto Elk. It was not enough, and BLG will lead the series 1-0.
Look at the last kill, just to tick it off, you know, get a little bit of extra KDA there on the last little bit of it there. Yagao picking up that last one onto Licorice, but BLG get themselves a first win, and right there you saw Bin, that was business. There was nothing personal, kid. We just come in here to win. We're getting ourselves to bracket stage.
Yeah, a swift victory as well, sub 30 minutes. And I feel like that overall, Golden Guardians, they tried to force a lot. You know, we talked about it, like there was that Dragon contest where they ended up losing 2 kills. There was that Herald fight where they overcommitted, they chased for more kills. I think that the composition they drafted themselves is very difficult to execute one. It's very reliant on both your carries in terms of jungle and AD being in a position where they can get ahead, really snowball. But they lost so much control and priority in the early game that Elk was free farming, securing a bunch of plates for himself. We didn't really see River getting much done in terms of the early game. And I think 2 of the big things that you mentioned was we didn't see Huhi on a big playmaker, something that can actually initiate fights and start things for Golden Guardians. And I think the other thing was that when you just allow BLG to just do whatever they want in the laning phase, they're going to run away with it. And that's exactly what they did. We saw a couple blunders. We saw Bin in the mid lane. He got a little bit over-aggressive. He did hand over a kill.
Hypey, you know.
But aside from that, there were very few to really no mistakes from the side of BLG. Overall, great river control from start to finish. They never really gave Golden Guardians access to that part of the map, and it made it so much easier. They were always first on Herald, always first on Dragon, and I think that this was something that Golden Guardians really struggled to deal with. So huge props to BLG. They're going to be a difficult team to beat.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for Golden Guardians, it is definitely kind of figuring out how to kind of readjust themselves, figure out where they want to try and go for this. But we're going to send it over to Trevor and the Desk to break down that game a little bit more.
Thank you so much, Ashin. You're not used to seeing my name there. Normally says Quick Shot. I do like that. BLG had complete river control in more ways than one, Andy. The game played out fairly BLG favored, especially once they got those advantages in the team fight. So I want to focus us in on the early game and what gave them the lead. In terms of the draft, we kind of like the champions that were being picked on the side of Golden Guardians, but I explicitly said the words, if you had no nameplates on.
Yeah.
Because I was a little nervous about execution. Raz, what do you make of the draft and how GG came into this?
Yeah, I quite liked the draft. It felt like they hit the Malphite pick quite well and neutered a lot of the carry potential that at least you would expect from Bin and forced him into an R pick. And so I was like, okay, quite good, especially since you're dealing with a Vi first pick that is going to get obliterated by literally all of what Golden Guardians had ready for it. So they had a great counter engage, but never got the opportunity to do it because they got blasted. Not even just on the top side. A lot of the times we didn't even see what was happening bot lane. They accrued about like a 10 CS advantage in the first 5 minutes of the game.
Yeah, it was just domination. I mean, the fact that you managed to get that early gank, not only mid to burn the summoner spells, but immediately just walked up and you're like, oh, cool, we get a double kill for Bin. Bin's now set up. We can leave him on his own. He's going to be able to play the game that he wants. And they just continue to play through Yago on this Ahri, setting up bot lane again for more and more success. Like, it just felt like there were the only few blunders that we really saw was when we got towards, like, okay, maybe we're over-aggressing a little bit in, like, towards the Rift Tower where we don't have mid-push. Maybe we have an opportunity to get caught out in mid lane, but BLG disengage. There just wasn't really an opportunity for Golden Guardians to collapse fully well.
Yeah, I will make a mention of Sun's early presence. Mid lane gank, forcing a TP, and then, of course, Bin buying about 10 seconds of time while River was on a ward, and so then it could just be a collapse on River, and it was just really well played and put Golden Guardians at a huge deficit.
I didn't see this live, but that was an IG emote thrown up just as that second kill came through. But I mean, look, the impact that Shun had very early on was very successful. And this was the third time that we saw fights around that river, around that mid lane, and giving BLG the 3-0 lead.
And I gotta say, for a lot of these, it's like, yes, you see Shun and you see Yagao, but On was an absolute beast coming into a lot of these as well. Like, just being able to set up so many of these team fights, work with his team. But I think coming into this specifically, I like how we saw Shun and Yagao working as that two-man unit. And especially when we started to get in past the Rift Tower play, and we saw Bin go for that overextension in the mid lane play as well. I think that's when you saw BLG kind of take over and go, okay, we've been aggressing that a little bit too hard. Let's pull it back a bit and let's play this by the book.
Let's talk a little bit now about this mid-game fight. I think it's one of the biggest moments where Golden Guardians had a leg up. In the mid lane, they managed to win the team fight. This is after what Dagda was talking about. They weren't able to convert after the Rift Herald or the Dragon down bottom, for example.
Yeah, Bin gets a little too crazy there. Probably just completely forgets about bailout there from Renata, and also is nowhere near his own Meganar. So you're just dropping. And so they made a few mistakes, tried to bail him out, and then gets picked off. So then you're like, oh wait, Golden Guardians has a bit of a chance. But then BLG just says, okay, let's calm down and hold the fort.
I mean, this was really great because after they got the pick, they then fall down and they punish BLG again. But as we watch this play out, I think Bedius was saying it just towards the end of the game there. You know, Golden Guardians, they had a couple of moments, a couple of glimpses, but they do need to calm down. They do need to be putting themselves in a better position so they don't get punished for mistakes. Dags, I asked you specifically, like, how did you feel about Golden Guardians, like, peeling away from that Rift Herald or peeling away from the river? And you're just like, well, that was good, but why were they there in the first place?
Yeah.
Is that a fixable mistake going into game 2?
I definitely think so. I think it's a case of almost turning your point back on yourself is like play with the nameplates off. You have a great composition where if you play it slow and you're not trying to over-aggress into like picks that we'll see in a little bit at some of these fights, that you can actually make these fights work. Like, you've got the Lissandra safety, you've got the Kindred safety, hell, you got the long range on the Jinx. Like, play these fights slow. But it felt like Golden Guardians were so worried or nervous about not being able to make anything work. When it started to go their way, they just all in on us rather than thinking it through.
Yeah, and even before the mid lane fight, if you're in a position that you were in because of the early game disadvantage, you can take the Jinx, swap her up top side, and then just decide to trade sides in the map, right? You can't do that for Malphite. You don't really get that much of a benefit. But they wanted to take those fights, and they ended up failing a lot of times.
I mean, I think the early game impact, the advantages that BLG accrued ultimately decided how the game played out. We do have one pretty highlight team fight, though, that really sealed the deal. Every second counts, thanks to the rival Cisco Network. BLG coordinate a fantastic wombo combo, engaged to ace Golden Guardians the second Herald, and these were not the fights you're looking for.
Because the Aphelios swapping into a blue gun, the flash from On to get straight in there with his Recon ultimate, same with the Gnar ultimate. Everyone came in at a perfect time. I just really enjoyed this just because they're trying to get and punish. Sure, you blow up Vi, you try and go into a small corridor to kill the top laner and Bin, and you get punished straight from that Recon ultimate.
Yeah, it's that horrible moment where you kind of come out of the Bloodlust and you look around and you go, oh no, what have we done? We've got Bin who's about to turn Mega. On had been locked up by the Chompers initially, but flying in, like I think On played these fights absolutely spectacularly, but it was just that quick turnaround. And I think that's where BLG are so decisive, even though they lose one in the beginning, that like quick second decision where they just go back in is so difficult for you to deal with as Golden Guardians when you're supposed to be playing it slow. You're not trying to just run into the enemy team every second.
Okay, so I think we've clearly broken down exactly how this game ran away from the Golden Guardians. With them losing, they get side selection in game number 2. If they lose that, they will drop to the lower bracket. If they win, we go to the decider. Golden Guardians have picked red side. So as we take a look at the final stats and the final performances, Rez, I'm going to come to you. What do you make of this red side pick? Do you think there's, they've got something up their sleeve? We saw the Kindred being pulled out. It didn't really get a chance to shine. What would you like to see Golden Guardians adapt for game number 2?
It's interesting because, as we said at the very top of this segment, I just like the Golden Guardians composition. And I think that you can have a debate on which one's harder to play. I think it's just harder from the side of BLG to play simply because of the Vi pick.
Yeah.
Like, how are you going to engage into Golden Guardians composition? I think they just come out of that game saying, we just need to execute better. So, as sad as it sounds, I think you just have to run the same thing and just play better.
And I agree with Raz 100%, and I feel like a lot of the red side decision making is, can we continue to get that counter pick for Licorice in the top lane, right? Even though we saw it going, okay, you got the Malphite, you can do reasonably okay, you still fall behind to the Gnar. Getting those 2 early kills just snowball that lane completely out of control. It's out of the hands of Licorice. So if you can execute better, your top lane isn't going awry. You're not having this Aphelios, picking up those 10 CS that you were talking about in the early stages, and then you can actually come into these fights on a much more even footing that can work out.
And I think a big takeaway as well from both of these teams that had dominant victories yesterday, it almost looked like BLG had the same tier of win against Golden Guardians today as both of these respective teams did against their opponents. So the writing is on the wall. Golden Guardians are in a very difficult position. Can they bounce back in game number 2? We'll find out after the break. Oh man, I tripped over my words there.
They waited a couple of seconds. Can he get himself over the wall? That is the question. River trying to make sure he doesn't lose his flash. Gets himself over the wall. They cannot get the clap back. But Ben gets first blood. And now you can see with a little bit of damage, can Licorice finish off this kill? He cannot.
Archer, we can fight. I'm looking here. This is not bad. No. No skill. No. Nar's in team. No skill. Bye. Nice.
Straight away, the hostile takeover is decent. Shun has taken away the Eclipse onto Bin. They're looking for an engage. Bin with the ultimate of the Aphelios means everybody is turned to dust. Gory will just about get himself to safety. Never mind, you guys got your number. And what looks so good for Golden Guardians.
Get it.
A team against a king. Seeing against believing. A moment against a moment for the ages. Countless battles, one arena. The realm. The only thing capable of powering the game, the stage, the broadcast, and the worldwide spectacle we know and love. AKA the Cisco Network.
Red Bull gives you wings.
New and existing customers can choose the phone they want, like the incredible iPhone 14 on us.
Not to brag, but I'm on Verizon now. And I got to choose the phone I wanted for free.
Not that you're bragging.
Choose the phone you want on us. Verizon.